Queer. That's right, folks. Luca Guadagnino is back this year. 2 movies released. Yes, I know Challengers was pushed back for whatever reason last year. Well, we know the reason, but Challengers came out earlier in the year, and now Luca is back giving us a more enriching experience than a bunch of horny tennis players. That's up to you. I think Challengers is one of the best films of the year, so having Luca have a new film come out this year to follow up that's going to be hard to top, literally. And this movie reunites a lot of the people he worked with on that previous movie. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are back doing the score for Queer. Justin Koritsky is doing the script for Queer. So everyone's back. The team that made that first movie, Challengers, work is back doing a more personal passion project that is something Luca Guadagnino clearly wanted to develop for a while. This was one of those ones that he always wanted to do. Based on the story from William S. Burroughs, he clearly saw something in this project. It's like, I can connect to this, I can understand it. I'm one of the few male directors alive that has the ability to tell this story authentically through the lens that works for him. And I think that's true. There are few directors working today, and I'll say this too. My knowledge on queer directors isn't as strong as it should be, especially from a male perspective. I don't know too many prominently gay male directors, which is a shame. I wish there was more that are on a higher repertoire than what we see. But I think Luca might be the most prominent of that category at the moment. I can't think of anybody else I'd rather see handle this subject matter that's on this scale. There's a couple of things that Luca does really well. It is people who are panicking internally and then giving us an external experience from that panic. He's really good at that. He's also really good at framing male characters. There are few male directors who know how to frame their male characters and their male actors the way he does, because it's through sympathy and care and compassion. He is just willing to let the vulnerability speak for itself, let the cringiness speak for itself, have his characters look a very certain way on screen. And I think that's a really cool thing to experience that only he is kind of doing on this level right now. And it's a shame we're not seeing more people like that. Again, I wish I was more versed in this area, but this is a really fascinating film. I don't know if it's the best of his career. It's definitely on some level a very personal story, something very passionate for Luca to talk about. And it gives some very interesting performances about people who are afraid to speak their truth, don't know what that truth is, and having people unravel in a way that works really well for him. I dig it a lot. Everything on a production standpoint just harkens back to a type of film that we rarely see anymore. We're filming in real locations, but we're adding a lot more vibrant colors to it. There's a shot, I think it's kind of close to the beginning of the film, where we have purple, very light violet leaves falling off of a tree, and it just sweeps through the scene. And I swear to you, I had to take a second to be are we allowed to show colors like this? Because it's so different in contrast to a lot of the other stuff going on in the movie. A lot of this movie has very dark colors. The sky is very dark. We oversaturate a lot of the colors that we are in South America and Mexico and stuff. But the skies are always so dark and vibrant and navy blue. So when we had that early shot that's just this really light tone of violet, it just really struck something in my mind. Wow, this is a really stark color choice that we don't see a lot. It's playing so well. And that just leads into everything about this movie playing so well. Cinematography is great, the choice of where we put the camera and the colors and how we film everything. It looks fantastic. I don't know if this is the most iconic Trent Reznor score, but it gets the job done in a very serviceable way, where it is very competent and interesting. But I think what really works for the more musical side of the film is the choice in songs it uses. There are surprisingly a lot of Nirvana for a film that takes place more in the past, and that can sometimes be annoying. I think when you have a director who's fully aware how to do that and how to use that type of music to show you this is somebody freaking out right now, it comes across better. And Queer is a great example of that. When they play Come As You Are, I'm oh yeah, this is clearly somebody who knows what song they chose for this specific reason and how it works here really adds to like the whole story. It's just a very intense moment of watching an older queer guy figure out his relationship with like this younger man in his life and how he wants to connect with this person that he's just like longing to understand. Very cool in that aspect. So the colors are great, the cinematography is great, the music works really well. It's looking visually pleasing, and I don't think it's like as extreme in terms of like the camera movements that we've seen from Challengers or anything. It's more quiet and just internal and experiencing things on a lower stakes, and that is really impressive. I do think a big driving force for this film for a lot of people is the cast. It's going to be very controversial in some aspects because of who Daniel Craig is, who we know him to be, and would this performance, would this character be better served from an authentically gay actor? I'm sure it would. But I think what Craig presents really well, and why you'd get somebody like Daniel Craig for this role, is the elder statesman of it all. Like, this is a guy who has been around for a while. He has so much like neuroses in him that is yet to be explored fully in film. I think the only other director to really like capture that part of Daniel Craig as an actor is Rian Johnson in like the Knives Out stuff. He's having so much fun here. And it's just so sad the way he's having fun, just the small tics, the way he presents himself, trying to perceive as like cool and proper, but still desperately and deeply in love with every guy who he interacts with. It's very emotional and personal, and the type of performance you get from an elder statesman who's been acting for a long time. And he does very good with what he is asked to do. I am very pleased with Daniel's performance. It looks great. And he knows how to hit this beat really well because no one's really asked him to do it before in his career. Like, I think like a younger Craig hit some of these beats, not as like well as he does now, but now that he's kind of like out of the James Bond shadow, he wants to show people he can have fun and he can go there. He can be the things that nobody wants to see him be. A lot of actors do this. When you do like the big thing, you want to escape from the umbrella that you're cast in. And between this and Knives Out, and even something like Logan Lucky, Craig is just like showing you, I can do different stuff. Watch me have the time of my life. And this is a great performance from him to do that. It's really impressive. He looks great in this movie too. He's got like a white little hat on half the time, and he's got like an unfitted suit that's kind of like just a little bit wrinkly. Great costuming for these people. Just shows you like this is a man who's been here for a while. The way they dress Jason Schwartzman as well, who's also having like a great 2024, unbelievable. Like, this is taking the just like base level of who Jason Schwartzman is and just upping it up a little bit. Like, yeah, this is how this type of guy would present in this era. I think it works really well what they do with him too. But the co-lead of this film, or like I guess the lead supporting, would be Drew Starkey playing Eugene, which I'm not too familiar with Drew. He started like one of those streaming shows that a lot of people watch, right? I couldn't tell you which one, but he's one of like those streaming names where you're like, this guy is too good for the material he's been doing right now. So he's starring in a new Luca Guadagnino project. So like, yeah, that's great for him. He presents like the symbol of sexuality, if that makes sense. The beautiful sequence where his character is introduced in the movie. You're like watching somebody just show up on screen, and suddenly every single person in the room or on the street where it takes place is looking at the epitome of what sex looks like. Like, this is the hottest, most beautiful thing to ever exist. You have to try to obtain it. And that becomes the basis for the story, is Craig's character Lee trying to obtain this piece of sexuality in this guy and figure out why is he spending any time with him? What is he truly thinking in these situations? It's really incredible. And I think Drew Starkey, just given like this type of performance, works really well. He's kind of told to be an object, but gives some like hints at personality and depth when we need to. It's definitely about Lee's story, but you are a key factor in that. You are like a driving force for a lot of that. And that works really well for what this character has to do. And he is dressed perfectly too, just like the proper military guy, the shirt tucked in, the prim glasses, everything about him is just pristine. And you have like this cringing, sweating old guy who's just like so sure of himself that he knows what he's doing and tries to like just sway the favor, the opinion, the love of this man. Very appealing. When it comes to like the sex scenes, we get there a little bit. Now, again, this is like a mature movie for like a mature audience. I think we could have pushed it a little farther. It does feel pretty tame. We do a lot of like cutting away to a balcony, which, yeah, you know, like there's like a romance and like not actually seeing like the brutality of like their love making. But I think it would be just as strong to show you like the way that they connect on certain ways, how they're willing to connect on certain ways. That could work pretty well. But we don't really get there at some moments. We do sometimes. We get close sometimes. We never like go all the way in on that level of the romance. Now, this film is also split up into 3 distinctive chapters and then an epilogue. Personally, from my stance, the first chapter is the best of the 3. It is the most interesting. It's the most alluring for the characters. We're setting everything up. The middle section I like too, because it's like, well, now that we are connecting on this romantic level, let's see what we can do with that. And then it shows you like the harshnesses of a relationship in this capacity. The third chapter, I don't want to spoil it too much. If you're familiar with the story, I'm sure you're going to figure out what that is. I don't particularly think it is as strong as the first 2. What it's doing thematically and how these characters relate to each other is very important to like the overall piece, but it doesn't work as well. It kind of falls into the category of like Bones and all for me, where it's like, now here's a weird thing we're seeing. And you're like, okay, that's cool. I don't know if I need that 100%, but it works. And the epilogue ties a nice little bow onto the whole thing, where it finally just hits very well and pinpoints exactly what this is about. It's about the longing of a connection that you never truly understood. Is there feeling here that you don't know? Is there something here you want to know? That works well. That's really cool. And you just wrap that up with like a very beautiful, very quiet and somber piece about like a man on the fringes of his own life who's constantly tweaking out because he's on opioids. Very interesting. It works well. Craig has been getting a lot of recognition for this. It's all deserved. If I were to say this is the performance of his career, I don't know if I'd stand by that. I think we have... Okay, here's what I'll say. We haven't seen Craig at this level before. And I think going forward for him, if he continues to pursue like these types of projects, we will see better performances in this vein from him. But I love what he's doing here, and it's very impressive to see him go to this place, because that's what I want from him. So that's cool. Overall, this is a strong movie. A few faults here and there, but the nature of this story that has a very interesting script that can't do certain things, you're going to have some faults. But it works and it gets the point across, and sometimes that's all you need. So, Queer. I am going to give a 7 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.